Hi. For this next video, things are going to get a little more interesting. We're going to talk about the idea of acceleration, which is when you actually have changing velocities, and this is where the problems really start to get a little fun. So a nice and simple definition of acceleration is how much faster or slower you get for every second that goes by. And the exact formula for it is A equals delta V divided by T, or this delta just means change in. So if you want to find the change in velocity every second, well, it's just the final velocity minus the initial velocity divided by time. You actually probably already know this formula, and you don't even know that you know it. Let me prove it to you. So for a very basic problem, my supercar can go from 0 miles an hour to 60 miles an hour, and it takes it 10 seconds to do that. What is the acceleration of the car? You can probably crank this out in your head without even writing anything down, right? It's just going to be, well, it got 60 miles an hour faster, and it took it 10 seconds to do it. So for every second that went by, you got 6 miles per hour faster. Or in other words, your acceleration was 6 miles per hour per second, right? For every second, you got 6 miles an hour faster. So after 1 second of driving, you were going 6 miles an hour. After 2 seconds of driving, you were going 12. And by the end of the 10 seconds, you were going a full 60 miles per hour. These units might feel kind of weird because it has hours and seconds at the same time. But just kind of break it down in your mind. This chunk is how much your speed changed, and this chunk is just how much time it took to do it. And acceleration includes both of those. So here's another problem for you that might be a little less obvious, but maybe you can figure it out on your own. It says Rebecca Black is looking forward to the weekend when suddenly the driver slams on the brakes. If the car goes from 25 meters per second to 10 meters per second, and it takes it 3 seconds to do that, what was the car's acceleration? Now the formula that you've got at the corner of the screen over here is acceleration is final velocity minus initial velocity divided by time. And we can actually pull all three of these things out of the problem. So grabbing all the values from the problem and just throwing them in there, you got 10 minus 25 over 3, which gives you minus 15 over 3, and you end up with a final answer of minus 5 meters per second per second. Now that answer might sound kind of weird, but the negative here simply means that you were slowing down. If you were traveling in the positive direction and you got slower, then you accelerated in the negative direction. So that's all the negative means there. I wouldn't worry about it too much. In physics, negatives only mean direction. Don't think of them like you did in your math classes. In physics, it's actually simpler. It just means you accelerated in a different direction than where you were going. And look at this meters per second thing. So what that means is that for every second that goes by, you got 5 meters per second slower. Just like we did up here with the 6 miles per hour per second. Here, you got 5 meters per second slower every second. So when you see these units, don't be weirded out by it. And some people write it as meters per second squared, but I don't write it that way. I think the idea of a second squared is kind of weird to me. So I just write it meters per second per second.